Who is this suspicious-looking gentleman?
This is David Waldron. He's a clinical nurse specialist and a bone marrow transplant coordinator.
Right, OK. He looks more like a kind of a bouncer type figure to me. Hi, how you doing? You all right, mate? How you doing?
Yeah, all right.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Adrian, pleased to meet you. So you've had, as I understand it, you've found a non-related donor.
Yeah, it's an 18-year-old girl.
So about 3 days after the transplant, the blood counts will drop right down to 0, and that's when we call the patient neutropenic, so they're very vulnerable for infection, and we don't let them out of the room.
Take care, mate. Look after yourself, mate. I'll be thinking about you.
For someone like Ian, his chances of cure without a transplant are about 10%, and with a transplant it's about 50 to 60%.
What, of survival?
Of survival, of being cured for life and the leukaemia never coming back. But the price to pay for that is the chances of dying as a result of the transplant are about 10 to 15%, and that's of complications.
Blimey. Nice to see you.
David had a condition called myelodysplasia, which is a pre-leukemic condition.
For David, conventional treatment has failed.
For a patient that's already had 3 transplants like David, or even just 1 transplant, there's not really much we can do. We usually just control the blood counts with blood and platelets and look after them, and the life expectancy is probably only a few months. Luckily, Professor Craddock is trialling a drug called azacitidine that's used to treat and sometimes even cure myelodysplasia.
This is the trial.
The trial medication, which is too expensive to get from the NHS without trial. About £6,000 per cycle, and he's had 8 cycles. But with the trial, the drug company pay for it.
Oh, wait, don't get up, don't get up, don't get up. Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
Great to see you. You all right? So, I can't tell you how good it is to see you again.
I first came to see Professor Charlie Craddock and meet some of his patients in 2009. Patients including Rob and Richard.
So what's this man doing to you then?
Bone marrow transplant, which started 2 weeks ago.
Whose bone marrow is that?
It's my sister's. I was very lucky. And the way we've been treated here has been really sort of enlivening of the spirit, really. At times when you feel very down, actually it keeps you up, and it's been a very humane experience.
So it's in there. So you're only the second person in the world to have that particular treatment.
I think Charlie actually said last week that I was the first.
Right.
There was just that sort of realisation that while you were under this guy and in this hospital and at this clinic, you knew you got not too many things to worry about.
There were 6 people in the film we made last time when I was privileged to meet you the first time round. You know, and to my shame, it never occurred to me till I was talking to Sandeep on the ward earlier that 3 are no longer with us. You know, it just makes you realise what the stakes are. You know, it's great to be looking you in the eye now.
Pete Morgan at breakfast. We're with you through until 9 today. Of course, on the way, revealing the final total that's been raised for Cure Leukaemia with the BBC WM.
In 2012, BBC WM's Red Alert appeal raised £178,000 for Cure Leukaemia, helped in no small part by another of Prof Craddock's patients, Tony de Grey.
Tell us about Tony then. Sounds a fascinating story.
Yeah, I was introduced to Tony in the early part of 2012. He'd been diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, and I was just told, go along and meet this guy. He's in his 50s, he's a factory worker, but he really wants to get the message out there about what it's like to live with leukemia and be diagnosed with it. We had the idea that we would hear from him kind of every few weeks.
Today is day 12, the 3rd of June. I've just spent probably the last 4 days just sleeping and just resting and not being able to do anything. It has been unbelievably bad.
He wanted people to hear the 2 o'clock in the morning in a lot of pain, bleeding from his gums, frightened about what the future would hold.
Still not much company, but it's so good to see my wife today. I didn't think I was going to get to this anniversary, to be honest. And to get here is, it's just an absolute milestone, and I know that getting there, I can get anywhere. It has been hell, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
We knew what the ending of the story was going to be, but it didn't make it any easier. The reaction surprised all of us as to how strong it was and how many people's lives he'd touched, with how brave he was when he was living with leukaemia.
Thanks to Tony, even more people are going into bat for Cure Leukaemia. We're bowled over by the £100,000 Warwickshire County Cricket Club has raised so far.
This could cause damage.
A young man, an athlete in peak condition.
Very kind of you.
Why didn't
you say that to me? I'll go easy on him.
Young, old, fit, unfit. It doesn't seem to choose leukemia, does it?
No, it doesn't. And obviously it's one of those illnesses that affects so many children.
Brilliant that the club have actually embraced the charity as well.
The fact that Cure Leukaemia can give the people who think they don't have a chance of life that chance is what makes the charity so fantastic.
Star chef and Cure Leukaemia patron Glyn Purnell knows quality when he sees it. Good for patients and good for the West Midlands.
Oh, good. You need a vacuum packing that. I just wonder what Birmingham's coming to when you've got a Michelin-starred chef and restaurant here, and it's a sort of a global centre of excellence for sort of leukemia treatment.
And you look at what they're doing with Cure Leukaemia in Birmingham, it's amazing. I mean, you know, I remember Birmingham was a real rough, scruffy place. Now it's a home of excellence of lots of different things, and it is amazing.
Neil Ramy, the man in charge of selling Birmingham to the big wide world, is a big fan too.
When I met Charlie, it sort of sparked something for us, because clearly we're in the business of trying to attract companies here, and that's what Cure Leukaemia helps us do.
There is a synergy here, and as a result of the work of this centre and a lot of the other excellent clinical trial work at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we're getting major investment by big pharmaceutical companies in Birmingham, in the region.
You sort of get two bangs for your buck with Charlie. Obviously he's in the business of saving lives, and there's nothing more important than that, but the reality is, for every nurse that he brings on board, it helps test more drugs, which allows us to persuade potentially more companies to get interested in Birmingham.
The money you give to Cure Leukaemia is clever money. It's like a magnet for even more money. In other words, it's highly geared. Here's how it works. You give Cure Leukaemia £2 million. Very generous. Thanks a lot. Instead of running straight to the drug companies to buy £2 million worth of badly needed drugs, Cure Leukaemia uses it to fund a network of research nurses all over the West Midlands. This network is just what the big pharmaceutical companies need to try out their new life-saving drugs. So now they don't want to sell us the drugs, they want to give us them to test. That's how a £2 million donation becomes £20 million worth of cutting-edge, life-saving drugs.
The maths are really compelling. With the £1.5 million that have been given to Cure Leukaemia in the last 10 years, we've raised well over £20 million worth of free drugs.
Cure Leukaemia, celebrating our 10th birthday with a new fundraising initiative.
Hi. Adrian, lovely to see you. How you doing? You all right?
So what are you expecting today?
A number puncher.
Fantastic!
There's about 400 to 500 children per year in the UK diagnosed with leukaemia, and we see here at Birmingham Children's Hospital about a tenth of those, so we have 40 to 50 new cases per year.
She likes the couch. The hospital trip, so what she looks forward to.
Take a deep breath.
Well done.
We never in a million years thought our son or anyone in our family would get cancer, but the fact that we're here at the Birmingham Children's Hospital and they're given the best care.
But we're in the best place anyway. So.
Yeah. Our outcomes are very good now, but we want to try and improve them by sort of fine-tuning the treatment, and that needs research, it needs research nurses, it needs trials.
Don't worry if the cameraman falls over. There's plenty where he came from. Do you, haematology oncologists, argue with other oncologists about who's got the most difficult job?
We have, definitely.
When I first was told that we were taking over the care of Stilian and Petrov, I have to say I was a bit nervous.
Any complaints aside from quality control? Yeah, but you probably never heard of him since you don't know much about football.
True, I did Google him.
The way you were messing with those needles and everything, I thought I was waiting for a jab in my left buttock. I mean, you'll be talking posh before long if you're not careful.
I've tried to, but I really can't shake it. And I see you've tried to as well, but you can't shake it either, can you?
Oh, we're stuck with it, mate.
This model works. That you fund the nurses, you open the trials, and you offer hope and curative therapy. But the harsh fact remains that we're still turning away many, many drugs, and we've got many patients out there in this huge region and this great city who need effective treatments because standard therapy has failed them.